Hi, my name is Dex Anderson, and my harrowing story is working as the accessibility coordinator at the Ward 10 convention and having to deal with landlords yelling at Aisha.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
Calling out cap people. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
I'm excited to talk about the convention.
Are you really, though?
No.
Well, this is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards, and I'm joined by Dex Anderson for what I'm calling a harrowing personal story. Dex, I don't know if you would you characterize it that way?
Maybe. It was not as bad as from what I've read on the 2023 convention.
Right. There was no full-on melee.
No. But there was still, tensions were high.
So, Dex, before we talk about your harrowing story, what is your prior convention experience?
I'd only attended the city convention before, but with this one, I wanted to make sure that I was more involved this time around to help make things better and more accessible, which is how I ended up being the accessibility person for this. I joined the arrangements committee and I was a delegate for my precinct. So I was there from 9 a.m. until after the convention adjourned.
Let's talk about what happened at the Ward 10 convention. I've heard from trusted friends that they saw either Aisha get shoved or there was a shoulder check. Like there was inappropriate contact happening in the hallway after a man confronted her. But like, what did you see?
So I was helping coordinate the check-in lines. We had 2 lines for each precinct, and I was helping keep for each delegate line for divided by precincts. And I was helping to keep the area between clear so that people could walk through. And I came up when I heard some yelling, and there was a man standing directly in front of Aisha, right in the middle of the hallway, and their faces were about this far apart. He was getting right in her face. And just yelling about something. I heard something about, like, you owe me $60,000 or something like that. It was some thing dealing with taxes. A bunch of us were attempting to get him to separate and to get in between. There were a couple of people who were trying to move in between Aisha and the man. And I went to go get a sergeant at arms, and one of the other sergeants of arms came up. So I went to go get the head, Sam, who was doing credentials and doing a whole bunch of stuff with the convention. And by the time I came back, that man was angrily walking out the door. So I didn't see the actual shove, but I did see what led up to it, and I was not surprised when they told me immediately that he had shoved her as well. So
You were also elected as the Minneapolis DFL Ward 10 rep, one of 2. So congratulations on that.
4-year commitment, but I'm excited to help plan the next one.
4-year commitment. Are you regretting that 4-year commitment after what you saw Saturday?
I mean, I stood for it after that happened, so.
That's true. Yeah, that was that was like one of the first things that happened. I have heard that man wasn't a delegate, not even a resident, just like a property owner. And like, that was something I heard like 15 minutes after walking in the door. I'm hearing this happening outside.
Yeah, it was at around 10:30. Registration started at 10. And so we were about halfway through for getting the delegates into the room. And this man was not badged. I didn't see where he came in. He was not one of the people that I had greeted. So I'm not entirely sure how he even got into the building, considering all the doors were locked except for that front one.
So how long have you lived in Minneapolis?
I've been in Minneapolis about a decade.
All in Ward 10?
4 years in Ward 10.
I'm trying to think why Ward 10 was so... Because I go to a lot of conventions, and like people are passionate everywhere all across the city about their candidates. They dislike the other candidates. So it's not as though like people don't have their preferences elsewhere or it's not contested. I don't understand why it has to be this way in Ward 10. Ward 7 was kind of angry too. Mm-hmm. Like 7 and 10 stand out, and 10 seemed to be the most anger in the room of any of the conventions. And it's coming from like older white people who are like
yes.
Presumably homeowners, not the typical crowd that you expect to be rioting in the streets or putting hands on people necessarily. At least that's my bias. My conception of older white homeowners is they're not going to be putting their hands on people. Maybe that's wrong. Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is that they feel they are not represented. And I feel the Lydia campaign has been using very heightened rhetoric. A lot of their... I repeatedly told this to Lydia supporters that I spoke to that day. I had some very good conversations with people in my precinct. And for a lot of them, it was their first time at a ward convention. A lot of them are very, very angry at Aisha for various different reasons, most of which have to do with policing, which is not Aisha's responsibility anymore, thanks to our strong mayor system. But also the Millard campaign has had this rhetoric of Aisha is bad, she's terrible for our city, and she's going to raise your taxes, she's doing all these things, without necessarily offering Lydia as like a positive alternative. I haven't heard any actual like platforms from Lydia that are positive besides I'm not Aisha. And I think that has helped rile up a lot of the homeowners and property owners and landlords in the area. Yeah, a lot of the Lydia supporters in my precinct, I'm in precinct 7, so right next to the Wedge. I found a lot of them were people who had been in the city for decades, who were older, white homeowners, who saw Aisha as a problem in terms of her support of rent control and things that they thought would be bad for the housing market. They also were strongly in favor of law enforcement. One of the men I spoke to said, well, I've never had any issues with the police. And I said to him, well, you are a white man. And it was like that fact had never occurred to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I read the Star Tribune write-up of this about Ward 10. Did you read that too?
Yes, I felt that it wasn't kind toward Aisha and didn't accurately portray the amount of ire that was being directed her way.
Right. And the way they characterize it, I forget what the exact phrase was, but like progressive versus more progressive. And that doesn't really ring true to me. I'm not out here calling anyone Republicans or calling them Trumpers. Like, I will concede they are Democrats, but they are conservative Democrats. By no means are they progressive. Like the guy who said, well, I've never had problems with the police. That's not a progressive.
No, not at all.
If you're progressive, you can maybe think my experience is not like other people's experience. And there's a lot of things like that. The hostility to labor. Let me try this one out on you, because when I was listening to the Q&A and Lydia, they asked, do you have labor endorsements? And Lydia said no. And the moderator said, well, would you like to elaborate on that? And just like no response, and it moved on. And like my reaction was like, did she proudly say no? Because that's how it came off to me. Like, did I hear that wrong?
No, it was very much a very proud and very blunt no. And I actually was speaking with one of the Lydia supporters who I had connected with prior to the convention, and we had texted a bit about why he is supporting Lydia and like why I disagree with her. And he said that that was a poorly done moment on her part because they believe that the labor endorsements are like essentially bought and paid for by the progressives, and that they don't actually matter as much as they as we give them weight, which struck me as a very strange way to approach it. Like I understand if that's the context that Lydia is coming from, but that is not the response that she gave, even though she was given the chance to give that greater context.
Yeah.
Instead, it just came across as no, and basically saying, I don't need labor.
I saw someone across the aisle from me get kicked out, a Lydia supporter, and I don't know why he was ejected. I also saw, I'm going to be talking to Sam Doughton in a couple of days about his harrowing personal story. He tried to kick a guy out a few rows ahead of me, and like the guy was just like, F off. No, I'm not going.
One of the people I was sitting with in my precinct had been on the credentials committee, and he was also had been part of that credentials committee, and she had quit because of him.
Yeah.
Because he was insistently like misgendering people and not allowing the chair to talk.
Yeah. Also the captions. There's a harrowing. Are you the one who replied to me and said the captions were a problem? So
yes.
I want to read some classic captions of things that were not actually said.
There was one about getting their damn food.
Yeah, one of the captions had Aisha Chugtai saying like, "Bring me to my damn lunch" or something like that during her speech. Do you have any thoughts on? You said you were involved in the accessibility arrangements.
Yes, that was something that the arrangements committee was trying to handle, and part of the issue was that we wanted ASL coordinators there, ASL interpreters there, but the Minneapolis party doesn't have a lot of money to spare, and it would have been a couple $1,000s to get somebody there to do the ASL stuff. We were able to get Somali and Spanish language interpreters who were not volunteers from either campaign, and they had headsets for people who needed them and stuff so that they could do real-time translation. So the captions are basically a program that sort of, it's not AI, but it like tries to do real-time translation, and those programs are always very, very bad because they can't understand accents, they can't like interpret properly and know what context is because it's just a math program. It's just a computer program trying to real-time translate. And so in order to do something like that, you need something that's called CART, that is caption access real-time translation or transcription. And that's also very expensive to do. So a lot of it comes down to the access problems are related to money. And that was something that I am not happy about as somebody who prides myself on accessibility and making sure that people who have different access needs can use them. And that is one of the reasons I ran for ward rep, because I want to make sure that the 2029 convention has these sort of things that I consider non-negotiable. The ability for people who are hard of hearing to access what's going on.
Is that the main reason you ran? Like what prompted you to run?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I was really tired and just sort of went, you know what, let's do this. Part of it
sounds like peer pressure. That sounds like peer pressure. Somebody got to you. Who forced you into this?
No, it was my own brain pressuring me to try and actually do something, because I have expressed in the past some anger at the DFL being inaccessible, like both just from a disability standpoint and from a political standpoint. It's a very long history, very deep bench of stuff that is in the background of like every interaction you have with DFL. This person has this history, that person has this history, and coming in as a transplant, it's very hard to get to know what's going on. So my goal right now is to sort of change it from the inside, I guess, to try and actually push it to be more accessible to those people who have never attended a convention before, have never participated in local democratic politics, or come from, like, transplants like me who come from states that don't have a functioning Democratic Party, to one that has, like, this robust, large structure, and learning what that is. And my hope is also to get into a position where we can update some things with the DFL. In particular, I know this is not the ward representative's job, but I'm hoping I can get connected to people for whom it is their job to update the gender parity stuff, because as a non-binary person, it's kind of weird. So.
Right. Because as a non-binary person, like, you don't count towards any gender, but you also have the advantage. I think your line, like, you were pitching it as an advantage. You could vote for me and it lets you vote for any other gender because you don't have to think about
the gender parity because I don't count toward any of it.
It's an advantage. It's an advantage, though, politically for you. Admit it.
Yeah, I get the original purpose of the rule, but I think it's time for it to be updated.
How would you update it? Like, what would the good rule there be?
I would find ways to make it trans inclusive, make it closer to the affirmative action policy that we have, where it's somebody has to be from an underrepresented group, rather than that the two positions have to be opposite genders.
Okay.
And stuff that, like, leadership has to have at least, if we're having co-chairs or something, leadership has to have at least one person from an underrepresented, because that just widens it out.
Anything else about the Ward 10 convention that you think it's important to say before we close it out? I think better delegate training in the future will go a long way toward making these conventions run a lot smoother. We spent about an hour arguing about the adoption of the agenda. Oh, that's normal. That's normal, Dex.
Yeah.
And I can never tell if that's in good faith or I don't know if that's ignorance or it's in bad faith as a delay tactic. And nobody wants to do training. You're already doing a full day at a convention. You expect people to go to delegate training?
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see what works in 2029, but I'm hoping that we at least don't have people from the credentials committee coming out and yelling that we're being anti-democratic.
Yeah.
So, do we want to explain that?
Go ahead. You want to explain that?
Yeah, upgrading alternates happens throughout the convention, because as delegates have things where they have to leave or whatever, they upgrade an alternate to put in there. It takes time to do that. And one of the people from the credentials committee kept coming onto the floor and saying, we need to pause so that we can finish upgrading. And saying it's anti-democratic to not allow these alternates to vote on things like rules amendments,
right.
Which was about the upgrading of the alternates.
Right. You can't upgrade people without adopting the rules that tell you how to upgrade.
Yeah. And she was at the mic that was by me, so people around her were trying to explain that to her. And it was very frustrating. And at one point, a bunch of us just told her, go do your job.
Right.
So, it was unclear if that was a delay tactic or what. But I
sensed a lot of genuine confusion. Yeah. But again, hard to tell. Yeah. There's so much intentional, bad faith, pretending not to understand. But
yeah.
Well, Dex, thank you for telling your harrowing personal story.
Happily, and hopefully we won't have. Well, there'll always be another harrowing story with the DFL.
Oh, especially after signing up for 4 more years as a ward rep with the Minneapolis DFL.
Yeah. I'll try to represent you well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service, Dex Anderson, Ward 10, Minneapolis DFL representative. This has been the Wedge Life Podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now, 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 right now.